Welcome to the Geeks, a special episode where we are talking to filmmaker Craig Bass in regards to a Kickstarter that you got going right now, Ghostlord and the Quest for Dark Presence. This is Alil, your one and only host tonight. Craig, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm really intrigued by this documentary you're putting together, especially because I'm a Chicago boy. I know the listeners know I've moved to Florida, but I live and breathe Chicago. Everything about me is about Chicago. And Galloping Ghost is a place I've been to many times, spent many days wasted away in the arcades there, and did not know about this story until I came across your Kickstarter and was happy that we got to connect.
Yeah, that was kind of the point, I think. I didn't know about it. I was very familiar with Galloping Ghost as well, and I had no idea this was going on. So when I found this out, it was similarly, I'm like, people are going to be interested in this.
Yeah.
I hope.
So why don't you, before we get into the Kickstarter, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of like what you're into and what not dragged you, but what caught your attention about this specifically, and kind of like how does that connect with you as I'm going to guess gamer, if you know Galloping Ghost, maybe a retro gamer, maybe arcade guy, maybe just a geek in general, because we're all geeks about something.
It's probably closer to the last one. I mean, definitely I've played video games all my life, but I'm a console kid for sure. So I'm 41, born in 81. Yeah.
Same
here. So I remember the arcades. It was super magical to have my uncle take me there at night, and you show up under the cover of darkness into this, the front of the place, just neon lights, and you go in and there's all these interesting looking characters there. And you have the glow of the CRT screens everywhere and all these unique looking characters and worlds. And I remember that vaguely as a kid and how magical that was. But then for me, I think the next step was really Mortal Kombat coming out, and then that being at the corner video store and sneaking down there because we weren't allowed to play it, and just, dumping every quarter you could find into the machine. So I'm more of a console kid, I would say. Very much more into like RPGs, though I am hugely into platformers. And I guess I'm not supposed to say this, but I'm a huge Overwatch fan. I get shamed by any actual.
Why?
I don't know why. A lot of gamers have told me never to mention that in polite company, but I have never played any game as much as I have played Overwatch. I've put more hours into that game than anything else. So that's an outlier, though. I'm not like a big FPS guy.
Okay. Yeah, so I am not either. My son is. My son can whip my butt. The other two hosts on here, they try to get me to play with them every kind of FPS game, and it's like I'll play for a little bit, but it's just not. Yeah, I'm similar like you. I'm a platform guy. I'm a console gamer collector. I have almost every retro system on this side of my wall. You got the comic book wall behind me. This is all my gaming and stuff, and Super Mario is my guy. That's the game that I still go to and play. And the movie this weekend was fantastic. But for a gamer, it's a kid movie, but I love the Easter eggs. But that's cool to hear that. That I like how you describe the arcade, because I have the same feeling. It's like I grew up playing in a lot of arcades, but as a kid, it was a handful of systems. I remember, I remember like the X-Men machine, the Turtles machine. Mm-hmm. I remember playing like the Nintendo machine, and seeing the different games on there, but not like so heavily, because like you said, it was like under the cover of darkness. My parents didn't like me going over there, spend too much money, but the uncle would take me. He'd take me and my brother, and it wasn't until older, like you said, Mortal Kombat was like what got me as a teenager in those youth years back into the system, because I got it for the Super Nintendo. There was no blood. It didn't look like it was in the arcade. It was really bad. Like
pale comparison,
yeah. Even the Genesis version, as much as like people loved it compared to the Nintendo version, there's nothing like the arcade and that experience in the arcade. It was awesome. So
I think all of that's relevant to my history. Right, as a kid, and having fond memories of all that. Was a huge MK fan, but like that ended for me. Like even the Mortal Kombat angle, that ended for me after Mortal Kombat 2. And there's so many games that have been released since. And then I tried playing 11. We actually just interviewed Eugene Jarvis, who a lot of people may not even know that name right now, but Eugene Jarvis was a very, very significant developer, game developer back in the day, having created Defender, Cruising USA, Smash TV, Narc, all these games.
I was going to say Smash TV is what I remember him.
Yeah,
he developed, and I love that game for the NES.
But we were just talking to him, and I was talking to him about Mortal Kombat Now, because he was at Midway when they made, you know, the original Mortal Kombats, and how I said it's so like fetishistically gory at this point. And I know that it's tongue in cheek and it's supposed to be fun, but if you want to do gory fun, it needs to be more like the Evil Dead type of vibe, kind of campy. I'm like, it's so surgically graphic that it's uncomfortable. So I guess this is just a tangent, so forget that.
No, it's all right. That's what we do on this show. We go on tangents. We talk about different things. It's fine.
Sure, but I grew up. I mean, growing up, I'm sure we had very similar influences, right? So games, comics. I mean, for me, massively into anime, and I'm old, so this was, you know, having to do tape trading through the mail with people all across the world and get fan subbed versions of films and shows. And you know, and yeah, games, comics, and all this good stuff was, you know, martial arts movies. Martial arts was huge for me. This was all very influential stuff. Well. So when I got into when I met Doc, who this centers around, he's the owner of Galloping Ghost, I realized that we had a lot of similar influences.
Kindred spirits, as you would say.
Kindred spirits, yeah. But that's not really where it started, you know. It for me, and I guess to answer, I think, a question which was more sort of who I am. I mean, I run a video production company. The entire reason I started the company was to put food on the table while I pursued my goals of being a filmmaker, right? I've run the company for 15 years. This is my first feature film. So I've spent a lot of time expressing my creativity through shorter form pieces like music videos, short films, fashion films, dance films. But I've had to be so attentive to growing the company that I never really had the time, or maybe wasn't willing to take the jump into, you know, putting myself into the unique hell that working. It's a beautiful hellish paradise of working on a film. But now I'm at that point. So this is sort of my first, probably successful foray into feature filmmaking with this documentary. And this sprang out of my day job because we were at a Christmas party 5 years ago. One of our clients was hosting this party, and I was talking to some girl I met there, and she mentioned how she'd been in a video game when she was a teenager, and she's in her 30s at this point. And I go, what do you mean you're in a video game? And she said, well, you know, like the old Mortal Kombat games, we were filmed on a green screen. Most people don't even know the old, at this point in time, you know, people younger than us. I just had this experience yesterday. They don't even know that it was real people. That was digitization going on for that game. And I said, okay, where? And she said, Brookfield. And I go, what are you talking about? Like, our studio's got to be the only studio that's ever been in Brookfield, you know, not to knock Brookfield, but it's not like a happening media hub.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, there's the zoo, right?
We have the zoo, and we have Galloping Ghost, the largest in the world. So, and then I said, who was making this game? And she said, Doc Mack. Now, I knew of the arcade. I'd been there. I knew Doc owned it. And everybody knows who Doc is because you see him walk up and down the street, and he's got the long black hair, the black jacket with the ghost on the back, the black fingerless gloves. He drives the black Corvette that says Ghostlord on it. So you're like, this guy's kind of the billboard. Yeah. And he used to live directly. Well, he still does. My former business partner lived directly across the street from him. So I would see him come in and out of the house. And you're like, this guy looks interesting. You know what I mean? He's got a story. And he owns the largest arcade in the world. Okay, that's interesting. And then when you find out, when someone tells you, oh, and he was making his own Mortal Kombat style 2D live action digitized game. And I was in it when I was a teenager, and we filmed in this like warehouse somewhere in Brookfield, and they put up some sort of makeshift green screen. You're like, oh, okay, who is this guy and what is he doing and where did this game go? Now, I said that was 5 years ago. I've been working on the film for 5 years, so I filed that away and sort of put it in my memory banks. I'm sure busy with something else at the time, right? So my girlfriend and I are driving past the arcade one day about 2 years ago, and I see a huge film crew out there. Huge film crew. Okay, they have semi trucks down the side streets. the main drag there is just flanked with massive film lights. And I'm like, what is going on? You know, and I have almost this like caveman reaction. Like, this is my turf. Oh, the big boys are moving in now. Oh, they're going to work with Galloping Ghosts. I always had in my head, I was going to work with Galloping. Now they're coming to my town. And then I turned to my girlfriend, who's weirdly connected to everybody through Facebook. And I said, you're friends with Doc on Facebook, right? She said, yeah. I said, get me a meeting with him. Like, ask him if I can come by. I want to hear his story. I want to know what happened to the game. And a few days later, I'm sitting in his office. Now, walking in there into the Galloping Ghost headquarters, you know, so there's the arcade, and then this is a separate building, is a very interesting experience. There's the guts of arcade machines everywhere. So you wade through that, and then you get to a hallway that's just lined with martial arts weapons. I mean, hundreds of weapons. And then you go into Doc's office, and then this wall is about 30, 40 guitars. Then you've got about 50 to 100 Godzilla models here. Then you've got about 200-300 boxes of Godzilla models not built. You've got the 5 Deadly Venoms masks up on the wall. You have this giant Asian fan and behind him with like a dragon on it. And you go in there, and you're just like, oh, I don't know if I could swear on this.
You can.
Okay. But you're like, my God, this is amazing. You know what I mean? It's like everything you loved as a kid this place is comprised of. So I was immediately fascinated. We sat down and we talked for 3 or 4 hours. And when he told me his story and the depth of what he had gone through to try to get this game done, which is now in year 28 of development, not done, not finished, not given up on, I was like, let me text you tomorrow. I need to digest this. And I texted him and I said, do you want to do a feature film? It's going to take a lot of your time. It's going to take a lot of access. I'll figure everything out on my end. I'll be respectful, but I'm going to need you to be very open. And he's like, yeah. The one thing I realized too when I met him is like, he's the nicest guy in the world. He's incredibly generous. He's incredibly busy, too busy probably, but he's very generous and a very interesting person. And that's kind of where it started. And that was about 2 years ago now.
Wow. So you're 2 years into this project. He's 28 years into the game that your project is based on.
Right.
That's an insane, like, just time loop that he's been living in with this game on the back of his mind, you know.
Yeah.
And we all have those things that we want to get accomplished. You know, we see that, you know, when you're growing up, you're like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. And, you know, you kind of spark something in me, like when you're saying about developing your production company and doing that, and that's your focus. And now you're finally getting to do kind of something you're passionate about. And I get that, because I think we all have that itch, right? Where we're I can't do it right now. I can't do it right now. I got to put food on the table. Got to take care of my kids. Got mortgage payment. Got to do the mature thing. But the fact that he's had this and he still hasn't given up on this dream, that's an amazing story to tell.
Right. Like, he never did the mature thing, right? And I'm not calling him immature.
Right. No, exactly.
In a way, it's like he lived the life he wanted to live. He loves his life.
Yeah.
He's come up against a lot of struggles, but I mean, it's insanity, man. When I heard the depth of the story, I was like, they refilmed the game 3 times. You know, the first time they did it, he was 17. They barely knew what they were doing. There's no internet. There's nobody to guide you. It's amazing they did what they did. You know, his sister's friend was this brilliant prodigy of a programmer. He had programmed his first game when he was 6 years old. Doc gets connected with him, and he becomes the way this is going to get, you know, the engine's going to get built, and Doc's going to focus on shooting. And, you know, he casts his sister and her boyfriend and his friend from wherever, and they do this. But it's like, you know, it's 10 days in an abandoned Remax office with no heat, you know, that someone gifts to them, and they just stay there and they try to make a game. But there's so much, you know, after a year of trying to work with the fruits of that labor, you realize we got to go back to the drawing board. You know, there's some kinks we have to work out, right? Another shoots again, this time 4 months, living in an abandoned warehouse that he set up as, I mean, he was allowed to be there, but it was like an abandoned warehouse. He's living in it. You know, he's shooting for 4 months. He developed a mystery illness he had for 20 years where he vomited 10 times a day and
oh my God,
had these crazy migraines, believed he was going to die, but it was like, I just have to get the game done. I can't focus on the fact that my physical health is completely in shambles. And, you know, gets out of there. And then it's like, it's an unbelievable story, man. Then it's literally getting investors involved, people, rich Texans flying out, going to his parents' house, into his bedroom. He's 19 and he's saying, hey, if we do what Mortal Kombat did here, you would make X amount of money. And here's this chart and here's a demo of the game. And people are giving him tens of thousands of dollars. David Lynch's production company offers him $250,000 for the rights to the story of the game. They see somehow a woman working there finds out about it, right? So it was just craziness. He rents a house and he staffs it with high schoolers 24 hours a day keying the footage, which for anyone who doesn't know is removing the green screen when you shoot somebody on a green screen. And it goes on and on and on. And after 10 years of chipping away at this, realizes everything looks dated. There's HD technology out now, all of this. We have to reshoot the game. And the last time they shoot it, it's 4 years it takes. And he decides, well, we almost finished it the first time. We had a very playable version. And I've written 1,600 pages of story now about these characters and other characters related to them and everything. You know what? We're going to shoot the sequel too. So not only does he shoot Dark Presence, he shoots Conquering Light, and there's 15 new characters. And what I'm saying is when I found all this out sitting there that night, I'm like, okay, it's not just a guy behind a computer trying to program a game for 28 years. This has been a quest, as is in the name. And there's been a lot of characters involved in this quest. There's so many people to talk to, so much craziness. I mean, he's living for, God, probably wrong here, but I think for almost a decade, he was living off of an eBay empire he built of Godzilla bootleg box sets and Led Zeppelin box sets, eventually getting cease and desist letters from, I believe, both Toho and Led Zeppelin. He was literally funding everything with an eBay empire he created. You know, it was like, when I heard all this, I'm just like, this is great. This is 90 minutes. People will watch this for 90 minutes, and I want to know where it goes. I want to know why and where and how. So, yeah, sorry to be so loquacious about it, but
no, I mean, I'm glad you're. I mean, it's great to be passionate about it because, especially, like, you're seeing his passion, and now we're also getting to see your passion behind the passion of his passion. So it's really great when storytellers can get together, right? And you see behind, you know, the scenes how this is being done, how this man went through this journey. And on top of that, it's part, you know, some of it's your journey as well, how you're telling this, how you're telling his story. So that's really cool.
It's been weird too, because the film has had an influence now. So we interviewed they've gone through so many programmers at this point. And we interviewed one of the former programmers. After interviewing him and me bringing him up to date on where they are with the game, he sends Doc a text and says, hey, I hear you've got the game in Unity now, and it's this and it's that. I want to help you finish it. And so now this guy's back on the team, right? And then conversely, for me, my art has been affecting, you know, is affecting me in that a lot of my direction in life now is hearing Doc's story and how, you know, roll the dice and just go for what you love and you'll figure it out. That kind of really pushed me to be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the filmmaker that, you know, I started as when I was 5 years old with a VHS cam, putting my cat on a player piano and filming him and saying, hey, this has got the amazing, you know, piano playing cat, whatever, up through Kung Fu movies when I was 10 with my best friends. Like, that's always been there. Now it's time to honor that and bring that out. And that was definitely, like, Doc's one of the only people I know that has really done that and done it straight through. The dude didn't take a side path for a while where he went to school. He dropped out of high school when he was 15. You know, it's like I don't even know if that's legal. You know, he never took that side quest that so many of us do. And there's something like really charming about that and fascinating. And he's been able to do well for himself, you know, in where he is in life.
No, it's fantastic. And it's great hearing about this part of the story, about your story with it. Cause I think that's kind of, like I said, like whenever I look at these projects on Kickstarter, especially because it's passion projects for the most part, right? It's not, people aren't, well, there are people out there, but there are not everyone's out there to make a buck out of it. Everybody's out there to do something that they've been passionate about doing for a long time. They just need to get it off the ground, and they need some help with it. And it's stories like this and stories like yours that really attract me to kind of looking to back others, because I'm one of them, but I am too chicken to make that leap right now. I can't roll those dice right now, and maybe one day I will. You know, my wife is continue to steer. I do this podcast and everything is a small percentage of the extension of that fandom and love that I have for everything geek, because I would love to make my own film one day. But hopefully, you know, we'll see. You know, one of my friends has just completed his horror movie, and I was blown away that he got to do it. I'm so happy about it, and I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you've gone through this journey, and I can't wait to see how this story ends.
Well, partway through the journey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what? Getting to this part is still an accomplishment of itself, but you know, I think I'm very curious where this game is. I'm invested just by reading the Kickstarter and talking to some people and knowing about Galloping Ghost and not knowing the whole story behind it. But now I'm intrigued. I hope you get an ending before you're done shooting. You know,
is in the game's finished?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me that the other day. I was talking to somebody and they said, what's going to be done first, the film or the game? And I'm like, don't put me in that position. At the beginning of the trailer, a guy says, I think he says, the game is always 3 months away or 6 months away or whatever. And I would say that is accurate. But I'm there, like, they're working on it. They are working on it, but there's a lot of hurdles, you know, especially when you're not a true, you know, big name game studio, when you're very independent. And then honestly, the biggest hurdle is the arcade. The thing that has made Doc so successful is also the thing that I think really keeps him from completing this quest. Not to make a corny, you know, metaphor here, but that's the thing that prevents him from doing it, because it demands so much of him. You know, but also he puts himself in so. I mean, the dude's one of the biggest Godzilla model collectors in the world, probably. He created and ran the most definitive website for Godzilla model collectors, and now he's started Galloping Ghost Kaiju Kobo. So he's got a sculptor in Thailand that he works with, provides with references. He sculpts the monsters. They come back at Galloping Ghost headquarters. They print 3D models. And once they get it right, they get that prototype. It goes to a guy not far from here who creates limited latex, or maybe it's not latex, probably resin molds, whatever, pours a limited amount of these models. And then Doc's starting to get into, like, you know, Japanese toy and game shows, selling them stateside and stuff. So it's like anything. And I love this. Anything he loves, he's like, well, I'm going to do it. And that's how I am. You know, when I was a kid, I loved video games. So we designed something called the Sonic system, and we drew all the levels out for our games. And we had Intense Comics was our comic line, because we loved comics, and we drew our comics, folded our printing paper in half and drew our comics. So I think a big part of the draw for this was me seeing myself in him. But he's like the apotheosis of us in that, you know, he's actually like making businesses out of these things. The flip side is the man is probably busier than anybody I know. And I think there's a danger to becoming too busy in that, look, the game's not done, for one thing, right? You start to, I think your focus gets split too much. So when people ask me, is the game or the film going to be done first? I say, well, if I had to put money on it, I'd put money on the film. And I'm okay with that. The film's going to end one way or another, with the game being done or the game still being in development. And either way works for me. So we'll see where we end.
Well, if it's not, then you have a reason to go back for a sequel.
Well, trust me.
You can film a sequel like him.
No sequels. We already have, I know what I'm doing next. You know what I mean? Or there's a couple of projects that are already kind of getting teed up. So we'll see where those go. And none of them are a sequel. Not that I love Doc and I love working on this story. It's great. But I'm also we still have a long way to go, and then after that, I'm ready to kind of play in a new sandbox for a while.
No, I completely understand that. No, that's great. It's a great story, and like I said, I'm excited to see where it goes, and hopefully it's a happy ending for all. Because I don't want it to be a cautionary tale, right? Like you said, like where you have too many passions, and then you just don't ever complete any of the passions, or the biggest passion gets away from you. You know, that would be. I don't want to say sad because he, like you said, he's doing everything and he's loving life, and you know that's the win no matter what, you know. But I think if he accomplished this goal, you know, especially this long in the making, it would be like a weight off your shoulders, right? Like you've done so much to get to this point, and just to not see it through.
Yeah, I mean, this is the life's work. You know what I mean? Like, and that was the thing. People just think Galloping Ghost Arcade, but they don't know that the foundation the arcade is built on is this game that they don't even know exists.
Yeah, which you know, if this game gets finished and he's able to unveil it at Galloping Ghost, you know, I'd love that. That would be a great event, you know, for everyone. But this is great. No, this is great, and can you let everybody know about the Kickstarter, where they can find it? I'm going to make sure I have links everywhere posted because I'm really excited for you. And I want you to make sure I want you to hit your goal. I can't wait to see this film. But where can they look you up and everything about the Kickstarter?
Sure. We tried to simplify the links. I think it's ghostlordkickstarter.com/start will take you directly to the Kickstarter page. Ghostlord's Quest, no apostrophe, but plural, ghostlordsquest.com is the website. There's probably more info on the Kickstarter than anywhere else, though, just because you're forced to, when you develop one, really kind of go through every aspect of the process. And some of that will have to ripple back to the website now. But yeah, you can check it out there. We have a full trailer based on our progress thus far, which is significant. We've shot about 50 interviews, about 150 hours of footage with interviews, B-roll, and whatnot. And we have all of the filmings. We have the tapes, and we've been organizing and archiving those. So geez. And again, another countless hours of footage. So we have a lot of material, but there's a lot yet for us to do to really make this what we want it to be. So hence the Kickstarter. And obviously, I think it was important what you said earlier, like all the Kickstarter money literally goes back into the film. So there is no money to be made for us. It's just facilitating the completion of the film. And I'm very candid. Like, I've spent $60,000 on the film. I don't have any more money. I have some money, but I need to use that money to pay my mortgage and do all this.
Exactly. I get that.
So we're kind of at the place now where it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're doing the Kickstarter. Now, if the Kickstarter, let's say it doesn't succeed, the film's still going to get done. Like, there's no way this film isn't going to get done. We go to plan B, C, whatever it is. So no matter what, this film will be finished. I promise you of that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. And also, you know, can anybody follow you on social media? Do you have any social media platforms you post anything that you're doing or your upcoming projects? Because you just talked about that you want to play in different sandboxes afterwards. So where can they follow you, your production company, the other work you're doing?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, so there is, obviously, I'm Craig Bass. You can look me up on, I don't really post on anything but Facebook, and all my posts are related to the Kickstarter. But Ghostlord's Quest on pretty much everything, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, will take you to social media that's applicable to the film. And then it's very confusing. The company I run, that I've run for 15 years, is Motion Source. We do corporate and commercial work. But I've now started a new business, which is Year of the Phoenix Productions. Point being, the audience for that's film work. You know, that's this. That's what's to come. So most people are not going to be interested in Motion Source because that's going to be corporate and commercial. But yearofthephoenixproductions.com, you can go on and see some of the stuff I mentioned earlier, music videos, short films, things like that have sort of been the steps on this staircase leading to where we are now making this film.
No, it's fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for the insight, and I am even more excited than I was prior about this film. I can't really wait to check this out because like I was saying, like it's somebody living out their dream, right? And it's for a lot of us that have played it safe and don't have the strength to roll those dice, and seeing somebody else do that and seeing someone else live and breathe it for so long. I can't wait to see how it ends for Don and even you getting this first featured, under your belt.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, that's it. Make sure there's a whole bunch of awards on the Kickstarter here right now. I'm looking at it right now, and I think you're over 50% to your goal, right? It ends at the end of the month.
Yeah, right? I think we have 18 or 19 days
18 left. Yeah, 18 days 18? To go.
Oh boy, okay. Yeah. It was a long way to go. Well, yes, halfway.
Halfway and 18 days to go. So good luck. Right. And
yeah, we need your help, everybody.
That's fantastic. And until next time, everyone, keep it geeky.